I joined the Carpenters Union in the late 80s, around 1986. I was working for a law firm as legal secretary, and I commuted a long way home every night from Westwood to Orange County. And there was this huge sign on the freeway, a billboard, and it said, "Paid construction training, women needed." I called the number. The number was the Carpenters Union, and it was for a pre-apprenticeship training program that was part of the Century Freeway project. I went through a couple of interviews. They called me back and they told me that they had accepted me into the pre-apprenticeship training program. I went through the training program, and then I went to local 1437 and became a member. I was dispatched out to a company named Steve P. Rados, which was a bridge contractor that was working on the Century Freeway. My first job was on Western Street overpass in Los Angeles. At the time, I had a young son, and he needed somebody who could support him financially, and the Carpenters Union gave me that opportunity. I learned that journeyman carpenters made very good wages, and it was something that I was interested in as well, working outside, working with my hands, working with tools on. It's just something that seemed to be a fit for me at the time, and that's why I made a decision to join the union. I know both Doug and Mike. I've known Doug for a few years longer than I've known Mike. When I joined Local 1437, shortly afterwards it was merged. All of the smaller locals were merged into 4 larger locals. I went into Local 630. Doug was coming out and making rounds at all of the local union meetings and explaining the benefits of the merger. At the Local 630 meeting, I had questioned him about the members losing their right to vote as part of this merger. That's why I remember this specific meeting, and that's why I remember my first encounter with Doug. Then over the years, I was politically active. My business agent, Floyd Clay, had encouraged me to attend my union meetings and also to become politically active in the union. So I did, and I had an opportunity to meet Mike and to see Doug on many occasions at precinct walks or other organizing activities, other union activities. I received a Facebook message from an employee of the regional council. The message simply said, "Did you hear what happened to Mike McCarron?" I thought he was dead. I thought, oh my God, no, what happened to Mike? Why did they just say, "Did you hear what happened to Mike McCarron?" So I immediately went onto the internet and I started running some searches, and I found that there were 14D charges filed against Mike McCarron by somebody named Mike Draper that was a representative of the International. And in addition to that, the Southwest Regional Council of Carpenters had been placed under supervision by the International. I don't believe the accusations. I think they're false. I think that they're drummed up. I reached out to Mike and I asked him what was going on. I learned that there was some personal issues that had caused Doug and Mike to become estranged a few years ago. And then earlier this year, their mother passed away. Right before her passing, there were some things that happened that I'm not going to speak on, but that Doug wasn't there for her, and I think that was probably the straw that broke the camel's back in that relationship. And I think that Doug's threatened by Mike. I think that their relationship got to the point where Mike decided he wasn't going to stand in Doug's shadows anymore, and maybe he was going to run for general president in 2015. And I think Doug saw that, and I think that Doug knows that Mike's popularity with the members would have put him in a very strong position, and I think that that threatened Doug. And I think because that threatened Doug, and I think with the estrangement between the two of them, that Doug did what he thought that he had to do to survive, and that is go after Mike and get rid of him. I did. It bothered me to the point that I couldn't let it go. So I started going on to the internet and I started looking through public records data. And what I found is the Department of Labor requires labor organizations to report their financials on a yearly basis. That information is available to the public on the Department of Labor website. And that information is contained in a form called an LM2. So I went on to the Department of Labor website. I downloaded all of the LM2s as far back as I could for the Southwest Regional Council of Carpenters, for the International, for, as a matter of fact, every district and regional council in the nation, and for all of the local unions in the Southern California area. In addition to that, I found that 990s are also on the internet and are accessible to the public. So I downloaded all of the 990s that I could find as well, which was the International and the Southwest Regional Council and some of the local unions. What really stood out with me is the financials for the Southwest Regional Council were very similar to the financials of every other district regional council that I found, and the International, with the exception that the International has millions of dollars in consultants. But for the most part, besides that, they were very similar. And I also found that the Southwest Regional Council has net assets in 2012 of $250 million. That is the most profitable regional council in the nation. The International in 2012 had net assets of close to $600 million. So the regional council is worth almost half of what the International's worth. And if these charges or these allegations had any amount of truth to them, then there would be a financial trail showing the mismanagement. And there's just no financial trail showing that mismanagement, none that I could find. I represented Mike in the 14D charges. I was with him through the 4 days of testimony and documents being presented and questions being asked. I think what stood out to me the most was Mike's pay stubs. They're consistent. There were no raises received from 2008 to 2012. One of the arguments is that Mike unilaterally was able to give himself raises, any raises that he wanted to give himself, and he was too big for the union because he could do this, and it just isn't the case, and his pay stubs reflect that. The other piece of information or evidence that was submitted that was very intriguing to me was that the executive committee every year for the last 4 years would make a motion to give Mike a $10,000 bonus at Christmas time. And every year for the last 4 years, Mike respectfully declined that bonus. If Mike was in this for personal gain, Mike would not have thought twice about taking those bonuses. $10,000 a year over 4 years is $40,000. That's a lot of money. But he didn't take those. He declined those. Attend your local union meetings. Ask questions. Speak up. And remember, you have a voice.